The following program is sponsored by CBN.
Today, a Michigan neighborhood that's 97% Muslim.
What better place in the whole wide world, to find people that don't know Jesus?
And a pastor with a vision to preach there.
Lights my fire, man.
How the church is making a difference in the Muslim center of America.
When they say yes to Jesus, it's an amazing thing.
Plus,
pow, 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 real loud. There was a lot of shots.
A man is shot 6 times right outside his church. Hear what got this preacher back in the pulpit.
That was a miracle. Absolute miracle.
On today's 700 Club.
Hello and welcome to the 700 Club. Well, once again, a court in Turkey has rejected an appeal for the release of American pastor Andrew Brunson. That decision comes as the Trump administration is warning it could step up the pressure on Turkey for Brunson's release. Jennifer Wishon brings us the story from Washington.
With cameras rolling and the world watching a cabinet meeting at the White House, President Trump raised the case of American evangelical pastor Andrew Brunson, who is still being detained in Turkey on charges related to terrorism. Accusations both Brunson and the U.S. say are false.
They have not proven to be a good friend. They have a great Christian pastor there. He's a very innocent man.
Turkey's economy is already in a downward spiral, and the president's Treasury Secretary announced more financial pressure is on the way if Turkey doesn't release Brunson.
As you know, we were very clear with our counterparts there, both Secretary Pompeo and myself, on the release of the pastor. We've put sanctions on several of their cabinet members. Working with you, we have more that we're planning to do if they don't release him quickly.
Last month at Brunson's third court hearing in nearly 2 years, U.S. officials thought they had a deal to free him after the U.S. helped Turkey by pressuring Israel to release a Turkish citizen imprisoned there. But instead, Brunson was placed under house arrest, where some fear his life is in danger.
Certainly the president has a great deal of frustration on the fact that Pastor Brunson has not been released, as well as the fact that other U.S. citizens and employees of diplomatic facilities have not been released. And we're going to continue to call on Turkey to do the right thing and release those individuals.
Christina Arriaga, vice chair of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, says every American can help pressure Turkey by avoiding buying Turkish goods.
I have great faith in the American people, and I'm hoping that at a minimum they can make anyone who has a Nutella sandwich or anyone who has towels that come from Turkey that unwillingly they're participating in lifting the economy of Turkey, which is something that we should not be doing when they're holding Americans like Pastor Brunson.
If he's not released, Pastor Brunson's next hearing is scheduled for October 12th. He faces 35 years in prison. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Well, not using Turkish goods, I'm sure, can have impact, but maybe the greatest impact we can all have is to continue to pray for Pastor Brunson. He's in a very difficult situation, sort of caught between and betwixt in this whole scenario. We need to ask God to do something significant, something of eternal significance in the life of this man and in our relationship with Turkey. Well, in other news, Democrats in the Senate say they want more information on President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Terry. Senate Democrats say they're getting ready to sue the National Archives so they can access more Supreme Court nominee Kavanaugh's records, including some from his time as White House staff secretary for President George W. Bush. Democrats have already used a Freedom of Information Act request to get some of Kavanaugh's records, trying to find information they can use to block his confirmation. Republicans say the Senate has already received about 250,000 pages of documents from his time in the Bush administration. Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing begins September 4th. Well, last month, we brought you the story of French Jews who left France bound for Israel because of growing anti-Semitism. Well, this week, more immigrants arrived in Tel Aviv, this time from the U.S. and Canada. They had different reasons for coming, but as John Wagi explains, many believe they're fulfilling Bible prophecy.
More than 200 new immigrants have arrived on this flight from New York, and nearly a quarter of them are lone soldiers. young people who came without their families and will soon join the Israeli military. Yaakov Khan from Monsey, New York is just out of high school. He'll be stationed in the south, near Gaza.
I'm not scared. There's no reason to be scared. It's our land. We don't have a choice, you know? You gotta do what you have to do.
And what does his family in New York think?
They're very proud of me. I hope that they follow in my steps, you know, and do what I do.
Mazal Tov, I don't know whether you know it or not, but you just entered Jewish history.
Michael Oren, deputy prime minister to Benjamin Netanyahu, was an immigrant from the U.S. himself almost 40 years ago. He says most Americans come for different reasons than the French immigrants who came last month from a place where anti-Semitism is rampant.
This is a very different aliyah. The people who came from North America are not coming because they're not fleeing anti-Semitism. They are not here because of economic strife. Right? They've made a decision to move from probably a better economy than our economy to certainly maybe a more secure environment than our environment, to serve in an army. In the United States, they don't have to serve in the army. Here, they do have to serve in the army. It's a very profound, weighty decision when you think about it.
Zelda Wildman from Ohio came holding a card from her father. It was issued by the British Mandate government in Palestine, denying him the right to come to Israel before it became a modern nation.
I feel like I'm fulfilling his dream. We lost all our family in the Holocaust, and he came to Ohio because that's where he was sent. He always wanted to go to Palestine.
Jeff DeHaan brought his family from Connecticut. His wife Dorit took care of the kids for months while Jeff took up a new job in Israel.
It was difficult to be separated. It was difficult for the kids. But we made it.
Their son Tal summed it up for the family.
It's just been really hard and stressful for when we had to get everything set up. But now once we're here, it's a lot easier and it's very worth it because this has been a dream for us and we are living the dream.
We asked Yaakov Khan if he is fulfilling the words spoken by the Bible prophets.
I think it's pretty obvious that we are because we're returning.
John Wagi, CBN News, Ben Gurion Airport, Tel Aviv.
Thanks, John. Well, here at home, the film Running for Grace hits theaters today. It shines a spotlight on the issue of adoption by highlighting the story of an orphan who uses his blazing speed to deliver medicine to poor coffee pickers in the mountains of Hawaii and then falls in love with the daughter of a plantation owner. Ephraim Graham has this sneak peek.
We'll take 3 mark. Just gonna have you come to this place here. He's gonna be really yelling at you. And action card!
That's filmmaker David Cunningham at work on the film Running for Grace. It's set in Hawaii in the 1920s.
During that time, there was laws about racial integrity where it was actually illegal to adopt children of mixed ethnicities. Joe is half Caucasian, half Japanese, and rejected by both communities. A new doctor comes to town, played by Matt Dillon, and takes the boy under his wing.
What's with that kid? He just showed up out of nowhere. Where's your parents? All right, kid, come on. You can live with me. I'm the new doctor for the plantation. If any of you are sick or get hurt, you just see Joe, and he'll come get me.
When I read the script, I said right away, this is really good because this is very specific and very authentic and very real. You know, the coffee fields, the plantation, the prejudices in society at that time.
You know, Joe, you seem pretty smitten with the big man's pretty daughter. I need your help. I got another one like this.
Miss Grace has hurt her ankle.
Miss Grace? Let's just show him that you're a qualified assistant.
Cunningham isn't just a filmmaker. He comes from generations of missionaries on both sides of his family.
This particular film is all about the power of adoption. Adoption is the gospel, and the gospel is adoption.
Jim Caviezel also stars in this powerful story.
I think it's a film that will really resonate with the people. Has great redemption to it.
I have been trying to adopt this kid. I believe this young man has the makings of a physician.
Perhaps you'd like to be on a winning team.
The distinguished doctor has taken an interest in you, my dear.
A miracle.
Selling your only daughter off is a miracle?
I wouldn't give up if I were you. You're meant to be with Grace.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Well, as we mentioned, Running for Grace hits theaters today. And as Ephraim mentioned, the film's director, David Cunningham, is the son of missionaries. His parents founded the organization Youth with a Mission, known as YWAM. Terry?
Making a difference in the lives of young people all over the world. You know, adoption is a picture of the gospel. It's because God has adopted us into his family, just taken us wholly up as his own, given us his name, given us all of the promises and all of his power that comes with that, and a promise to spend eternity with him. It's what he does for each and every one of us. It's why when we adopt, it's such a powerful symbol of who our God is. Well, coming up, a pastor who placed his church in the heart of a neighborhood that's 97% Muslim.
What better place in the whole wide world, you know, to find people that don't know Jesus, that need him, and need what Jesus has to offer.
Watch the transformation happening in Dearborn, Michigan, home to one of the largest Muslim populations in the United States.
Let's take a look at some numbers. 4 out of 5 people who have a stroke, their first symptom is a stroke. 80% of all strokes and heart disease, preventable. And $149 is all it takes to get screened and help take control of your health. We're Lifeline Screening, and if you're over 50, call this number to schedule an appointment for 5 painless screenings that go beyond regular checkups. We use ultrasound technology to literally look inside your arteries for plaque, which builds up as you age and increases your risk for stroke and cardiovascular disease. And by getting them through this package, you're saving over 50%. So call today and consider these numbers. For just $149, you'll receive 5 screenings that could reveal what your body isn't telling you.
And I'm going to tell you that's the best $150 I've ever spent in my life.
Lifeline Screening. The power of prevention. Call now to learn more.
Monday, Kathy Lee Gifford shares her passion for Israel.
I've been going to the Holy Land since I was 17 years old.
And for the Jewish roots of our Christian faith.
We're living half of our faith out because we're not living our Jewish part.
Plus, his marriage was on the rocks, so he committed armed robbery.
That night was about committing suicide by police.
A desperate man takes desperate measures on Monday's 700 Club.
The city of Dearborn, Michigan recently made headlines after one of its residents was captured in Syria and accused of working for ISIS for 3 years. Dearborn has a large Muslim population, but this recent news doesn't reflect the good things that are happening there. Mark Martin talked to one Christian pastor who strategically placed his church in a neighborhood that's 97% Muslim.
Dearborn is known for being home of the Ford Motor Company. It's also home to one of the largest Muslim populations in the country. Drive around town and it's like you're transported to the Middle East. Nearly half of Dearborn's population is Muslim. Out of the 90,000 residents, approximately 40,000 practice Islam. 80% are Shia Muslims, mainly from Lebanon and Iraq. 20% are Sunnis, mainly from Yemen.
That makes this area the largest concentration of Arab Shia Muslims in the United States. And that mosque behind us is actually a Shia mosque. It's definitely the largest Shia mosque in the United States.
It's known as the Islamic Center of America. John Koski views himself as a Christian missionary to Muslims here. He's also the associate pastor at Springwells Church, an Assembly of God congregation led by Pastor Trey Hancock and his wife Becky. The church sits less than 10 minutes away from the Islamic Center of America in the heart of a neighborhood that's 97% Muslim.
Jesus said, I want you here. So we're here. And I mean, what better place in the whole wide world, you know, to find people that don't know Jesus, that need him and need what Jesus has to offer. Right here, we're not making it hard for them to come to the Lord.
The church began meeting in the Hancocks' home in 2000, more than a decade after the pastor and his family first arrived in Dearborn to minister to Muslims. Hancock says he heard the call of God while in Dearborn receiving cultural training.
And just walking and just praying, got down about right here at this very spot. And the Lord spoke to me and said, if you're going to learn about these people, you got to live with them. And I thought, whoa, That didn't come from me. I knew who that was. It was really clear, it was really distinct, and there was a prompting from the Holy Spirit. And I said, okay, Lord.
That step of faith has led to a thriving ministry. In addition to Sunday services, church outreach includes drama presentations, a wrestling club, and English as a second language classes, which include learning Bible verses in Arabic and English.
I think it's very effective because we're really building relationships. We're ministering to their felt needs, and one of the biggest needs is to learn English as a second language.
Koski and others like Paul Schindelbeck also take their ministry door to door.
You said this speaks of the truth of Jesus?
Yeah, it speaks about who Jesus was.
Who Jesus was?
Yeah.
Diane Berry serves through a Christian Taekwondo ministry. The former Muslim says Springwells is making a difference.
Is God. It's all God. It has to be. And the supernatural protection as well, when you think about it. And we're welcomed here by most because it's a serving church.
Hancock is overjoyed when Muslims accept Jesus.
Lights my fire, man. When they say yes to Jesus, it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing, especially after they get baptized, because that's when they're saying to the world, I belong to Jesus.
Although rewarding, ministering in Dearborn takes a lot of work. Koski says it takes 30 gospel presentations for the average Muslim to accept Christ. And that's not the only tough part. In ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved. For example, Hancock says in the last decade, more than a dozen churches in the Dearborn area have been sold to Muslims and turned into mosques. Churches like this one, you can see it's now the American Muslim Center, and the cross has been removed from the steeple. On this other former church, an Islamic House of Wisdom sign has actually been placed over the cross on the steeple. Still, Hancock knows the Muslims who purchased the churches are not the enemy.
I'm not fighting, quote, them, because I want them to come to Jesus.
The pastor looks forward to the day he learns many Muslims have responded to the gospel message through his ministry.
I hope when I stand in front of the Lord that there's thousands standing behind me that I had no idea that were listening.
He believes there are more former Muslims in Dearborn who believe in Jesus than can say so because they're afraid of each other. And to the secret believer, he has a message.
Find somebody who knows Jesus. Let them know what you're dealing with, that you've said yes to the Lord. Even if you have questions, ask them to pray for you and allow Jesus to minister to you.
Mark Martin, CBN News, Dearborn, Michigan.
But I love the heart of this pastor and his church. They are making a difference. And I think of the scripture that says, how will they know if no one goes, if no one tells them? Pray for them. Our prayers can undergird what they're doing, even though we're not living in Dearborn, Michigan. Well, up next, a true rags to riches story as a thrice divorced immigrant goes from a street peddler to a multi-millionaire. See how she found true wealth after this.
Attention, do you have Medicare? Do you want to make sure you have the most benefits and lowest possible out-of-pocket costs? You may be able to lower your out-of-pocket costs and get dental, vision, and prescription drug coverage included in your plan. Call the Medicare Coverage Helpline now to find out what you deserve.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jason Buchwald. Over 3 million people have called the Medicare Coverage Helpline, but there are still many people who don't check to see if they're eligible for more benefits and lower out-of-pocket costs. It's so easy. One simple free call could save you money and get you more benefits. Be smart. Call the Medicare Coverage Helpline now.
Call now to see if you may be eligible to lower your copays and get extra benefits, including dental and prescription coverage. Don't delay. Call to see if you're able to save money and get more benefits now. Call 1-800-256-3200 now. Again, call 1-800-256-3200 now.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. you'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Well, we have had an amazing response to our series on how to build a better gut. More than 133,000 people have requested this free booklet, and it's not too late to order. To get your copy of this free Build a Better Gut booklet, just call 1-800-700-7000. Or you can download the booklet at cbn.com. Plus, you can stream the entire 4-part Build a Better Gut series and get bonus information, and that's all at cbn.com as well. Jean He Kang arrived in the United States with grand plans of fulfilling the American dream. A few years later, she achieved success, but certainly not in the way she'd planned. And shortly after Jean He became a millionaire entrepreneur, she realized that money could never buy happiness.
Self-made millionaire Jean He Kang had finally done it. She was living the American dream.
I made enough money to do everything I wanted. I traveled. I could buy anything that I wanted. But ultimately, there was something missing.
Growing up in a small South Korean village, Jean He longed to be more than a rice farmer, like her parents. Her father, a gambler and alcoholic, abused his wife and their 5 children.
My father was never around when we were growing up. He was all on my mom. And whenever he came home at night, he'll start beating us. I was thinking we were the trouble for him.
Feeling as though she were a burden to her parents, she tried to prove her worth by being a good worker.
Ever since I could remember, I helped my mom to lessen her sadness because my dad was never around to help her. And I thought that would have been good enough for her to consider me as a good daughter.
Often, Jean He prayed to God for a better life.
I used to pray to him to feel sorry for me and give me some more food or help me run away one day. That kept me going because I knew that I didn't belong there for some reason, and I was getting out.
In school, she studied hard, believing education was her ticket to a better future in America. But when she was 16, her parents heard a false rumor that she'd kissed a boy. Her father slapped her and called her a whore. Her mother offered no defense.
I didn't deserve it. I was looking at my mom to help me here. And she was with my dad's side, didn't bail me out, didn't believe me. And I felt betrayed. It hurts me. I couldn't let it go.
To get back at them, she started rebelling. A few months later, she got pregnant and had an abortion. She was then expelled from school and became a social outcast.
I could never go back to school. I was nobody, and I was ashamed to my parents. They don't want to see me. No one wants to see me. And I said, even God is not here to help me. I was totally hopeless.
So she ran away to the South Korean city of Osan. She became a prostitute with plans of finding a husband from a nearby U.S. military base. Within a year, she was engaged and on her way to America.
I see myself as finishing college and be somebody, have a good job, or live in a good life. When he asked me to marry him, of course I said yes. But I saw the ticket to America, my hope to go back to high school and be somebody.
She eventually earned her GED and an associate's degree, but it wasn't the path to happiness she hoped for. Over the next 10 years, she would divorce 3 times, survive an abusive husband, and have 3 sons. At 30 years old, she was a single mom with $2,200 to her name.
I was still nowhere close to where I wanted to be, but I always thought that if I can just get from point A to B, I can get out of this poor status. I could do something.
It was then she got the idea to start a business selling costume jewelry and accessories.
And that was the ticket to build my life. And I was a street peddler, basically. I would literally pull and go next to the grocery store and a grocery cart and selling stuff, sell.
Just as she'd done as a young girl, she asked God for help. She even went to church on occasion. Meanwhile, her business grew, and within 10 years, she had gone from being a street peddler to a millionaire. It even helped her reconcile with her parents.
As soon as I became wealthy, I took care of my parents. I bought them a house. I would give them plenty of money. That was my way of forgiving my parents.
Then tragedy shook her world. Her 17-year-old son was killed in a car accident.
When I lost my son, I got angry at God. Look, all the things I've done to be their mother and struggle, and you took my son away. Why me? Why mine? And one day at that church, during sermon, I walked out, and I knew that I was never going back.
Over the next 18 years, she focused on her other sons and making money, but still happiness eluded her.
I should have been happy with all the things I was able to do, but I had something in me that was missing, and I was searching. What is it?
She would soon find out. She became friends with a woman, a Christian, who had the one thing she didn't: joy. Eventually, Jean He agreed to go to church with her. The sermon was about the prodigal son.
And there's a big screen that says coming home. And the theme was runaway. And I said, oh, I'm a runaway. That story represented me, that I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home. And where is the home? And it wasn't Korea, it wasn't my mother, it wasn't my father. It was God that I was missing. I said, I want to be God's child.
She realized happiness and a sense of self-worth didn't come through riches or achievement, but through Christ's love and forgiveness.
The love that He had for me, that I cannot buy, it was only that God can give to me. I was only able to see His goodness when I opened my heart to Him and accepted Him to my heart. Every moment that I was facing, the darkest moment, the broken spirit, He was there.
At age 57, Jean He earned her bachelor's degree, fulfilling a lifelong dream. She's grateful and amazed at what Christ did for that little village girl praying for help.
That God that I used to pray is the same God right now living in me. And that's what's so special about knowing God. He never gave up. And He wanted me with Him.
God never does give up on any of us. And there's nothing we can do to separate us from His love except to refuse it. You know, if we don't receive the love of God, if we don't receive His presence in our lives, then He waits. She talked about that. God waited for her, waited until she was ready, waited through her anger, waited through her guilt, waited through her loss, and was still there when she was ready. God's been waiting for you too. Maybe today you're someone who feels like no matter what you do, no matter what you've accomplished, no matter how far you've come, there's just something that's missing. It's because you and I were created to have a relationship with our Creator. Nothing can fill that but His peace and His presence. Nothing can take away the shame or the guilt of the past, but his forgiveness. And it's free. It's extended to you if you just receive it today. You know, the hardest part of that for some of us is we can't forgive ourselves. Today, let Jesus begin that process in you. Let him come into your heart and your life. Let him cover the sin of what you've done, and at the same time extend a hand of forgiveness and a new beginning to you. That's why Jesus came. He wasn't just a good man. He wasn't just a prophet. It was God's plan that he sent his son, the best that he had, to die for you and I, to cover our sin. You know, even in different religions around the world today, there just is an inherent knowledge that there needs to be a blood sacrifice. That's why we sing about the power of the blood as Christians, because the blood of Jesus Christ sets us free from who we were. The love of Jesus Christ gives us power and new identity, a place to belong, hope, a future, all of that. Listen, it's yours for the asking today. Will you pray with me? Don't put this off any longer. You can have what Jean He found right now, today. Let's pray together. Bow your head and pray with me. Jesus, I need you. I need forgiveness. I know that. I need this hole inside of me filled. I need to know who I am. I need to know why I'm here. I want my life to matter. I've tried everything I know to do, and I just get deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole of my own making. Today, would you do what your word says you'll do? Will you reach down, lift me up out of the pit, and set my feet on a rock? Jesus, forgive me. I am so sorry. You know all the things I've done, all the sins I've committed, the wickedness, the meanness, the retaliation. God, forgive me. I'm so sorry. Change me. Would you fill me with your Holy Spirit? Would you change me? And I know that change needs to come from inside. Would you change the way I think, the way I see things, the way I respond to people, the way I feel about things? I want to be your child today. I want to receive everything you have to give. And in return, I give you all that I am and all that I have. Teach me your ways. And thank you, God, for the gift of eternal life. I receive it today in Jesus' name. If you've prayed that prayer with me today, then what? How do you move forward? How do you follow Jesus? How do you live with him and for him and in him? Well, Pat Robertson's put together this packet for you. It's called A New Day, and it's filled with wonderful information about the journey you've just embarked on. It's free. So is the phone call to get it. Just call our toll-free number. It's 1-800-700-7000. Say, I just prayed that prayer with that woman on TV, and I'd like the New Day packet. We'll get this out to you right away. Still ahead, a single mother of 3 is paralyzed by fear.
I was constantly worried about how I was going to pay bills, how I was going to pay rent sometimes, how I was going to pay the electric bill.
Watch how she conquers her fear and her debt, and even manages to buy a brand new home.
I work hard all day, and this is why. But taking care of my money has never been easy. Brinks knows what's valuable to me, making it easy to keep track of my money and pay my bills on time.
Here's to the strong, to the dependable, to the trusted. Your family counts on you. Who can you count on? The Brinks Prepaid MasterCard. With direct deposit, you can get your paycheck or government payments up to 2 days faster.
I don't have time to wait for a paycheck, cash it, and then run around and pay bills. Brinks knows what's valuable to me, time.
Call now or go online to get your Brinks Prepaid MasterCard. There's no cost to order and no credit check. Load money onto your card and then shop online, pay bills, buy groceries.
I get a text alert every time our card is used, so we always know our balance.
And we're protected from unauthorized transactions. Brinks gives us peace of mind.
With Brinks, you can conveniently manage your money online and with the mobile app.
I get cash back on everyday purchases. Brinks knows what's valuable to me.
saving money.
Call now or go online to get your Brinks prepaid MasterCard. There's no credit check and no cost to order. And with a qualifying direct deposit, we'll upgrade you to Brinks Preferred with extra benefits, including a savings account with up to a 5% annual percentage yield. And in this TV-only offer, personalize your Brinks prepaid MasterCard with your photo for added security. Get paid faster with the Brinks prepaid MasterCard. Manage your money on the go, anywhere, and get the peace of mind you deserve. Brinks knows what's valuable to you. Call right now to order your Brinks prepaid MasterCard.
Call 1-800-290-4542.
There's no cost to order. Call now.
And welcome back to the 700 Club. The wildfire in California is already the largest in the state's history, and it's still growing. The Los Angeles Times reports the Mendocino complex fire is burning more than 364,000 acres. Firefighters say the flames are being fueled by high winds and low humidity. The fire is still threatening at least 4 nearby communities. Operation Blessing is helping women in the West Bank and Israel to provide for their families. Operation Blessing's teams held vocational ceramics workshops to teach the women how to create and sell their own original ceramic creations. Operation Blessing also supplied a ceramic oven, raw materials, and a high-tech clay extruder. The workshops aim to provide them with the skills needed to take control of their livelihood and to help provide for their families. You can always learn more about what Operation Blessing is doing by visiting its website, ob.org. Terry is back with much more of today's 700 Club. It's coming up right after this.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Watch Protect Your Sleep starting Monday, August 27th.
Here you go, little guy. A cockroach can survive submerged underwater for 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Not getting in today. Not on my watch.
Pests never stop trying to get in. At Terminix, we never stop working to keep them out. That's what makes us America's leading pest and termite control provider, because we do whatever it takes to stop them in their tracks. For a free pest estimate, call 1-800-771-6236. Take action to protect your home today. And if pests ever do come back, so will we. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. For a free pest estimate, call 1-800-771-6236 or visit Terminix.com. Terminix, defenders of home.
Monday, Kathy Lee Gifford shares her passion for Israel.
I've been going to the Holy Land since I was 17 years old.
And for the Jewish roots of our Christian faith.
We're living half of our faith out because we're not living our Jewish part.
Plus, his marriage was on the rocks, so he committed armed robbery.
That night was about committing suicide by police.
A desperate man takes desperate measures. On Monday's 700 Club.
Enjoy your favorite Christian music on the go. Download the CBN Radio app at cbnradio.com.
Surveys show that 3/4 of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Elizabeth Parker used to be among them. She was a single mom who worried about paying bills, and she quickly found herself in thousands of dollars of debt.
9 years ago, Elizabeth Parker was struggling to get by as a divorced mother of 3.
Fear was not being able to provide for them and not being able to meet their needs.
The income she received from child support and her full-time job wasn't enough to pay for the basics. So Elizabeth began using credit cards to buy groceries, clothes, and to pay her bills. Before long, she was $9,000 in debt.
I was constantly worried about how I was going to pay bills, how I was going to pay rent sometimes, how I was going to pay the electric bill.
To make matters worse, Elizabeth's employer relocated her. In doing so, her living expenses doubled.
A lot of my prayers were just help me make it through to the next whenever.
Over the next 4 years, Elizabeth lived paycheck to paycheck. Then, at the suggestion of a friend, she started attending a new church. It was there she learned the importance of tithing.
That was the first time I ever really heard somebody say to me that like God owns 100% and he allows you to keep 90%. I knew for a fact I was not living and doing what God's best was.
That's when she said she heard God speak to her.
It wasn't audible, but I just remember hearing God say, you have to trust me. You just have to trust me.
The following Sunday, Elizabeth began tithing at church.
I would like to say that suddenly I had this huge windfall and I made like a gazillion extra dollars. That did not happen. I had just enough, I had what I needed.
During this time, she also learned about the importance of having a budget and how to get out of debt.
You pay God, you pay yourself, and then you pay all the other expenses. And so I've actually started saving. Oh, and the other really great thing about saving for Christmas and birthdays is I don't put it on a credit card, right? So I pay cash for everything. That's so great. I love it.
Elizabeth started a new retail job with a 10% salary increase. And then over the next few months, she received several bonus checks.
I knew for sure that I was going to continue to tithe no matter what. I just have seen God do some really amazing things and just grow my faith in ways that probably would not have happened if I had not been faithful with what he had given me.
With all of her savings, she was able to pay off over half of her credit card debt. She was also able to put a down payment on her new home.
When I think about everything in this house, the colors, the floor, the layout, every single thing is mine, and I got to choose it, and so I love that.
Elizabeth encourages everyone to be faithful over what God has given them and to tithe, and then watch God do amazing things for them too.
Throughout Genesis to Revelation, God is always, always faithful to his people, and that when we love him and we obey him and we trust him, that like he will show himself to you.
You know, what she shares is so true. Tithing isn't about giving God money or giving anyone else money for that matter. It's about trusting God, trusting that he is who he says he'll be. And he says when we do give him the 10% he asks out of the 100 that he actually owns, giving us 90, that he will do something amazing, open the windows of heaven and pour out blessing upon you. Boy, in this story, you can see how that happened to her, can't you? How did she go from penny pinching every single month, not having enough, having to use credit cards, and today owning a beautiful home of her own because she trusted God? You know, God's heart longs for us to know that he is who he says he is, that he loves us, and that we do trust him. In addition to that, when we give generously from our hearts, you know, we're able to make a difference in the lives of other people's need. That's not just a responsibility, it's a privilege. So I just want to encourage you to give and to give generously from your heart to the things that God speaks to you about. We'd love to invite you to be part of the 700 Club. It's 65 cents a day, $20 a month. We have thousands and thousands of people doing that. And so we are able all together as the children of God to reach out to people in need around the world as well as here at home. You can be a part of that. If you'd like to join the 700 Club in your own giving, our number's toll free. It's so simple. We call 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to join the 700 Club. When you do, we want to send you as our way of saying thank you for caring about others. Pat's latest teaching, it's called Angels, Their Power, Purpose, and Presence. I think you'll be blessed by it. Many others who've heard it, watched it, have been. We want you to have it too. So will you call now, 1-800-700-7000. When you join the 700 Club, you are literally helping people all over the world. People like 12-year-old Vivian, she lives in Kenya. Today, she has a good life. She has hope for a happy future, and she's surrounded by love. That's a stark contrast to the life she once lived, and she never takes it for granted.
Vivian grew up in a Nairobi slum where her mother was a drug dealer.
I felt like my mother didn't love me. She didn't give me enough food. She brought a lot of bad people to the house, and I was always afraid. I felt like God had forgotten me, and I wanted to cry every day. I was alone in the world.
Then Vivian was taken in by Living Faith International, a ministry supported by CBN's Orphans Promise.
Here at this home, Vivian and the other kids are surrounded by people that love them. They have 3 good meals a day, and they're getting a great education. Most importantly, they're learning about God. Do you guys have school today?
When I first came here, I didn't know anything about God. Learning about God was a very nice thing to me. Now I feel like I have a father who cares for me and loves me.
Vivian and the others often watch Superbook at home.
My favorite story is the story of Joseph. When he was sold by his brothers, God still had a plan for him. I have forgiven my mother the way Joseph forgave his brothers. No matter what someone does to you, if you forgive, it will set you free.
Through Superbook and the consistent Christian care she gets at the home, Vivian is learning to rely on God.
When I was struggling with my science test, I stopped and prayed and asked the Holy Spirit to help me. God helped me remember what I learned, and I got 100% on the test.
Vivian even found it in her heart to pray for her mother.
I pray that God will bless her and that she will prosper and one day be saved. Living in this wonderful home encouraged me to love God. Thank you for giving us this privilege. We don't take it for granted. May God bless you for blessing us.
Last year, I had an opportunity to actually visit Vivian and the other children who live in her home in Kenya. It's a lovely place. These kids are learning about the love of God. They've come from abusive backgrounds. They have been set free by the love of Jesus Christ, and they know that. They also know that they have you to thank for what they are living in today. We want to say thank you. If you'd like to give to the work of Orphans Promise, we are CBN's children's outreach around the world. You can do that by designating your gift to Orphans Promise today. We are working in over 60 countries. You know, the power of belonging in the life of a child is so important. And here's Vivian, who felt like she was alone and had no one. Today, she has a family. She has a safe place to live. She has a wonderful, thriving education. But more than that, she knows who she is in Jesus. She has hope and a future, and we say thank you. Well, up next, a pastor who was gunned down in his church parking lot.
Major concern was the amount of blood he's losing, which is primarily from the pelvic injuries, and you can just bleed to death from a pelvic fracture.
Watch how this man fights for his survival and see the surprising message he has for his shooter after this.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
I don't know why I didn't get screened a long time ago. I kept putting it off. What was I thinking?
Okay, Mr. Jones, we're all done. I told you it was easy. At Lifeline Screening, we use ultrasound technology to help check your risk for stroke and heart disease. After all, 4 out of 5 stroke victims receive no warning. Right now, a package of 5 painless screenings is just $149. So call today. Lifeline Screening, the power of prevention.
Tim Remington had a shattered shoulder, a collapsed lung, burns throughout his body, and a bullet lodged in his skull. A pastor, Tim was walking out of his church when he was shot multiple times.
Pow, 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 real loud. There was a lot of shots.
Gunshot wounds to his arm, hip, and head.
I literally had blood just caked over my face.
Pastor Tim Remington was shot in the back as he walked to his car.
I was in trouble at that point. That's where God had to intervene.
It was a mystery why someone would gun down Pastor Tim Remington in his church parking lot in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. But now it was up to paramedics to keep him alive. Paramedic Eric Paul found the pastor bleeding from multiple gunshot wounds and a collapsed right lung. He inserted a temporary chest tube to help him breathe.
We fixed the one immediate problem we could fix in the field, started giving him some fluid boluses, and then at that point it's time to go to the hospital.
Tim was taken to Kootenai Health Emergency Room. His wife Cindy arrived, and they had a brief moment together.
I said, I love you. He said, I love you. And then it was so hard for him to breathe, so hard for him to speak. 3 times he said to tell the children that he loves them. I said, do you know what happened? And he shook his head, and I said, well, you got shot.
Remington was shot 6 times. One of the bullets shattered his shoulder. Another lodged into the soft tissue of his skull, just centimeters away from killing him.
He was also hit in the arm and pelvis. Attending surgeon Dr. Bob Holman said amazingly no vital organs were damaged, but one injury was life-threatening.
Major concern was the amount of blood he's losing, which is primarily from the pelvic injuries. You fracture pelvic bones and you can just bleed to death from a pelvic fracture.
Dr. Holman and his team took Tim into surgery immediately to stop the bleeding. The only promise they made was that they would do their best. But as Cindy prayed, she knew that Tim's life was in God's hands.
Honest and truly, you find out there is a peace that passes all understanding, and his name is Jesus. And that really is what happened. Everything went very still. I really wasn't afraid. I didn't feel like Tim was going to die.
After 8 hours of surgery, Tim woke up in the ICU.
When I knew that I was alive, then I knew that God was definitely in it and there was a reason. And I didn't know the reason, but I knew that he was in control of it at that point.
In the meantime, the gunman had been identified as Kyle Odom. 2 days after the shooting, he was arrested for throwing papers over the White House fence, accusing Pastor Remington as the head of an alien conspiracy. But there would be no public outcry for justice. Instead, Tim's church and the city of Coeur d'Alene held a prayer vigil for Tim and the shooter that sent out a message of love and forgiveness.
They all said and communicated what I wanted them to say. We do not hate Kyle at all. We need to love him, and we need to bring him to Jesus.
But there were more battles to fight. A week later, doctors discovered a bullet had left a small hole in Tim's colon and rushed him into surgery. Dr. Timothy Quinn was the surgeon on call that day.
The colon has all kinds of bacteria in there, and so it was leaking, and it gave him peritonitis. I didn't feel like it was safe to repair it and leave it alone, so that we had to exteriorize it as a colostomy so it could get the infection under control. So that's a big deal.
Cindy, their children, and their church family knew what needed to be done.
We asked the Lord to rebuke the enemy on Tim's behalf, and you know, he did. And he kept doing that. The Lord kept protecting him, kept providing what was needed.
After 2 weeks, the infection cleared and doctors reversed the colostomy. Tim was discharged, but not long after he got home, he suffered a stroke. the Remington family continued to trust God.
I didn't have to keep saying, Jesus be with us, Jesus be with us. He was with us. And that constant faithfulness of the Lord and the fact that he loves us all the time, no matter what. Hard days, no matter how big the challenge is, and that was a big one, no matter how big it is, he loves us and he's with us.
Tim recovered from his stroke and just 3 months after the shooting was back in the pulpit.
People just wrote us, and they brought in baskets and baskets of letters that were coming in of people that were praying for us and people getting saved locally right here and people around the world just getting saved over it, of what God was doing even in my life. When I said that I had no animosity against the shooter, that caused a great healing in other people's lives for some reason. The Lord just allowed that to happen.
You could call it a miracle. Some people would use that term, and I wouldn't argue with that. One of the fortunate things is that every time it seems the guy shot him, he hit a big bone. And that was basically his shield against injury to internal organs.
Even as his assailant Kyle Odom serves his time, Tim writes to him often, offering forgiveness and sharing the saving power of Jesus Christ.
God preserved me, he saved me, and it was a miracle, absolute miracle.
Oh, friends, it's so good to know the God that loves you before life happens. You know, because of that, Tim and his wife were able to say in the midst of very uncertain circumstances, we knew there was a reason. We didn't know why. We didn't need to. They could trust God in the most difficult of circumstances. I want to ask you to do that today. We're going to pray in just a moment, but to build your faith, here's Alan from Kirkland, New Mexico. He called into the 700 Club for prayer after a spot was found on his lung. A prayer partner prayed with him for healing. Later, Alan's doctor confirmed his spot is completely gone. Kathy of Lubbock, Texas, called CBN's prayer center. Her husband, Gary, was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. Her husband and the prayer partner and Kathy agreed that with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Then after 3 MRIs and a CAT scan, 6 doctors confirmed Gary is cancer-free. God can do that for you too. Let's pray right now for the time we have left. Jesus, you are our healer, not just the savior of our souls, but the healer of our body, the one who created us, who knows us inside and out. God, you know every prayer being lifted to you right now. Would you extend your hand of grace, mercy, and healing to touch those who are hurting physically? From the top of their heads to the bottom of their toes, Jesus, set bodies in order right now, according to your good purposes and the will of heaven. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. If you need further prayer today, I want you to know our prayer lines are always open, toll-free, 1-800-700-7000. And here's today's Power Minute for you from Luke 5:17. And the power of the Lord was present to heal them. God bless you.
Monday, Kathy Lee Gifford shares her passion for Israel.
I've been going to the Holy Land since I was 17 years old.
And for the Jewish roots of our Christian faith.
We're living half of our faith out because we're not living our Jewish part.
Plus, his marriage was on the rocks, so he committed armed robbery.
That night was about committing suicide by police.
A desperate man takes desperate measures on Monday's 700 Club.
The veil between us and the Lord is thinnest when we're in our suffering. You know, this brain tumor that keeps coming back, craniopharyngioma you're born with. And when they diagnosed me, they gave me all of the different ways that I could deal with this tumor through, you know, these actions and prayer and exercise and just do everything I can. And the last 2 appointments with my physician, it shrunk. They don't shrink. They just don't. And it's, God gets all the glory. We're here by his grace and mercy. Our bodies are fragile but resilient, temporary. So we live our days joyfully, we live our days hopefully, we live our days faithfully. And in doing that, my goodness, it changes the world.